Yeah, I made that joke. Sue me. Hello everyone, Road Breach here, and today we're taking a look at the Transformers Combiner Wars Victorion gift set. Yes, I know this is an old set, but I'm reviewing it anyway! But before we take a look at the figure, let's take a look at the box. And it is a very big box. Now, what makes this set interesting is that it's a female combiner. You'd notice that by the pronoun her right there. Her targets. Meaning like an actual her. The her that's actually a girl. Now, I find this concept to be actually pretty interesting. You see this fan-built, that little fan-built feature right there? Well, I feel that this is one of the most interesting parts of this, because this is the first time we ever got a female combiner. Kind of like the first time that Lego ever got a big fig. That I'm not really into. But this I am. Now, that's pretty cool, but we're done with the box. Let's take a look at the figures. As is tradition, we start in vehicle mode, where the first thing you'll notice is the weird assortment of vehicles here. I mean, look at this. We get 2 cars, 2 helicopters, a motorcycle, and a fire truck. Pretty weird. But I guess something a little bit more obvious is the color scheme. Reddish orange and this light green.
Road Breach, isn't this the ugliest color scheme you've ever seen on anything?
Actually, no. No, it isn't. This color scheme does not bother me. Go sit in a hole. I've seen hideous color schemes before, and this is certainly not one of those. Walter, what do you think?
Brr, the very notion that this color scheme is puke-worthy makes me want to eat out all of your eyes!
Okay. Well, let's take a look at each one individually. Let's start with my favorite, Jumpstream. Her vehicle mode looks like a Lamborghini Countach in terms of the overall shape, but the lights, spoiler, and taillights are different. The orange and green complements the vehicle mode great, and the silver breaks it up quite nicely. The molded detail here is also pretty darn good, and the headlights are especially admirable in my opinion. Now for comparison, we bring in Sunstreaker, and we can see that the vehicle modes, in terms of, physical, molded detail, nothing's changed. Even the spots right here for the Combiner Wars weapon is still there. And yes, the Combiner Wars hand-foot gun that came with Sunstreaker does work here, and you can see that it works pretty well. And it does look pretty nice, just like it does on Sunstreaker. But one thing that is different in vehicle mode is the front bumper there. You can see the differences right here and here. Of course, that's robot mode chest plate. And when I mention that, I think you know what it's time for. Robot mode! Wait, what in Doom Eternal happened? The robot mode, in my opinion, is pretty good. Despite the weird proportions, I do still think that this is my favorite figure of the whole lot. With some of the same detailing as the other 2 figures with this mold, of course with some newer parts, to give the feeling that this is a feminine robot here. And I do like the face sculpt. Kind of looks like a geisha with the makeup and the eye shape and the helmet. And the rest of the detail here is nothing we didn't see. Well, the shell of the car right there and on the sides of her arms. And kind of on the back. But of course we get some molded detail back here. And what I believe to be a port for a Figma stand, which does work. I did try it out. And here's the other figures that share this mold to some extent. As for articulation, ball joint at the head, ball joint at the shoulder, double joint for transformation in the elbows, that being a hinge here and a ball joint, which can also be a swivel here, ball joint, swivel here, bend right there, and if you want, you can use the toe and spoiler joint for some foot articulation. Now, the weapon that they want you to give to her is this thing, which I do believe would be a shield. What is this, Ghosts and Goblins? But you could use it as a gun, except it doesn't really... It's kind of a weak-looking gun. And, yeah, I guess that's it for Jumpstream. Let's take a look at the others. Now on to Nightbreed, Dust Up. No, I totally didn't watch the original cartoon. But anyway, I want to say this looks like an Aventador, but she looks more like a Stingray. Hashtag not spawn. One problem I have is that she slides more than she rolls. And for comparison, we take a look at Dust Up and Dead End side by side. And you can see that Dead End goes for a more semi-realistic approach with the muted color scheme, kind of getting a bit of a gritty look to it. And with Dust Up here, well, yeah, the color scheme's a little garish, but it doesn't mean it looks bad. Far from it. Overall, nothing else is different in terms of vehicle mode, unlike Jumpstream and Sunstreaker. So, I guess that's it. So, let's move on to a more interesting part of a Transformers review. We have Dust Up. Although she really does look like Nightbird. You can see that the head sculpt really does capture Nightbird's sort of presence, but this is a different figure. Of course, I don't believe that Nightbird transformed at all, but of course here, the car kibble. But she doesn't have as many remolded parts as, say, Jumpstream does. Because if we take a look at Dead End and Dust Up side by side, once again, we see that the forearms are the same, the legs are the same, the center mass is the same, except for the chest plate and face. Of course, that's different, because, well, that would be ridiculous if Hasbro was selling you another figure that they were trying to pass off as a new figure, and you overall get the same thing. Oh wait, that already happened. But regardless of G2 color schemes, I do believe that Nightbird is a pretty good figure. However, one problem with mine is that there's a bit of a misassembly issue with her right forearm. It's kind of off-centered with the whole joint placement. Unlike with here, it's perfect. But regardless of QC issues, she is a nice figure. Now, in terms of posability, ball joint at the head, hinge right there if you wish to use it. Ball joint at the shoulder, swivel here, bend at the elbow, which is a little bit tight over here, but over here, it's fine. Ratchet at the wrist for inward movement, which makes no sense. Seriously, why is there a ratchet here? That makes no sense whatsoever. Swivel here. Ball joint at the hips. Swivel here. Bend at the knee. That's slightly over 90 degrees, and that's it. But you can get some nice poses out of her regardless. The weapon that they tell you to give to her is this thing, which just makes me think of, like, one of those things that people would use to harvest corn or something.
It just looks a little weird.
I guess you could call this a ninja weapon. Well, I mean, she kind of looks ninja-y, and so I guess it makes a bit of sense. But, otherwise, I guess that's it. Now, let's knock out two proverbial birds with one stone and look at Stormclash and Skyburst at the same time. In vehicle mode, their color pattern is mirrored. It's basically like the whole Fred and George situation, except a little easier in vehicle mode. Looking at both their vehicle modes, they are pretty long as a result of their transformation schemes. And the fuselage, if you just take a look at that, makes me think of a space shuttle when I look at it. Of course, I don't have the only space shuttle mold with this concept in mind. I am happy with these two figures because, well, this was my first entry into the Combiner Wars line. And speaking of which, here is Alpha Bravo with next to them. And if we just take a look at one of them side by side, you can see the difference right there with the remolded forearms with the missiles, and over here with the forearms and wings. You can definitely see their hand. After that, you're probably wondering, well, what is this? Well, this is actually the combined mode hands and feet, and this is actually an improvement with the other Combiner Wars figures, because for the longest time we've been getting these things, the hand and foot guns, as MGO likes to call them, which can become hands, feet, and guns. And as he said, they're too big as hands, and they're too small as feet, and as guns, they just look dumb. However, I do still have my figures hold these things as guns, because, well, it's just a way for me to keep these things around. And I do feel that, as a collective, it does do a serviceable job as landing struts for all of them. And just looking at them, yeah, it's kind of weird. However, you could use this as a flight stand, I guess. However, the hand needs to come out. But I just have these be the landing struts. So, I guess that's pretty much it for these two. I mean, they're pretty good helicopters for Transformers, and this was my first experience with the whole line, with Alpha Bravo. You can kind of see that there's a bit of a crack right there. It's a sign of age. I got this thing when they first came out in 2015. And right here in 2016, we have these. Well, it's 2018 now, 2 years after. But I guess that's it for these two. So, after that, I think you know what it's time for. Play the music. Now for robot mode, Skyburst and Stormclash look nearly identical, but of course the mirrored paint pattern as well as some molded differences, like right there being mirrored. Oh, that's different. That's definitely different. So it's basically like the Fred and George situation, except a little easier with different head sculpts, different paint patterns. But it's still kind of difficult, I'm not gonna lie. I could swap their legs like I've done here to make them a little bit more identifiable, but I think for this review, I'm just gonna keep them the way that they are. But as far as you guys are concerned, this is Skyburst and this is Stormclash. Now for a comparison. Here we have Alpha Bravo, which is the only other helicopter mold that I have from Combiner Wars. I don't have blades because, you know, reasons. Ball joint, ball joint. Bend at the elbow, that's 90 degrees.
Swivel here.
That's annoyingly clicky. Why is that there? Ball joint, which can go out that far, kick forward that far, and kick back that far.
Swivel here.
Bend at the knee, that's 90 degrees. And also, toe joint. That's for both of them. Now, as for weapons, what Hasbro wants you to give these two, something that Hasbro just unrelentlessly, unapologetically force these two to have without any consent from the buyers or the toys themselves, are these two swords right here. And truth be told, that looks pretty good. So, yeah, once again, let's move on. Now, the smallest of the renegades, Rust Dust. This is a situation in which I like to pretend that the Groove Legion class does not exist. More on that later. Honestly, this is just really lazy. It's the worst out of the bunch. But, for right now, the vehicle mode is pretty good. And it rolls nicely, which is definitely a shocker for a motorcycle, because usually when you roll them around, they just fall over. But with this one, it's wide enough to where it won't do that. And it's pretty fun to zoom around. And the detail on here is also pretty good. The boosters in the back are also pretty nicely sculpted. However, I wish they were kind of picked out in paint, but of course that's what the car can probably do. And the cracked windshield is also a nice touch, as well as the Cybertronian writing once again. And the Autobot symbol right at the front, although it's kind of interrupted by the huge split down it. But one thing that I don't like is the huge peg. Although I do feel like it's supposed to fit onto a combiner in some way. However, the giant hole, you could put anything there, like, let's say this gun, which I do use for robot mode as a bit of weaponization. So, yeah, I guess that's it. Let's take a look at robot mode, shall we? Hasbro, this is unexcusable, and I'm going to sue you into the ground unless you make another one of these. But, anyway, I really feel like that this is just the laziest figure here. It's just a recolor of the Groove figure, and I really wish they were to do something a little bit different here. Like, I don't know, make a new head sculpt at the very least. However, the figure itself is not a bad figure. You get some good detail, like, you know, the hands and the vehicle mode bits, making the robot mode look actually pretty neat. I mean, yeah, oddly proportioned, but I mean, it looks pretty good. That's something you can take away from this. However, the situation isn't as bad as the current new cartoon line of action figures we're now getting from Hasbro. This is not really acceptable because this is just completely and utterly lazy. You didn't even resculpt the head. What are you doing, Hasbro? Honestly, I really wish that they'd make a newer version of this set. And I hope that some third-party companies can get on this. Because this is just not gonna do. Like, come on. What even? The only thing that you could do to make this acceptable is pretend that this one doesn't exist. And you know what? I might as well do that. anger management bills aside, let's take a look at the articulation. The head is on a ball joint that I can't access because Hasbro's lazy. Outroad breach. Chill out. Ball joint right here. Ball joint right here. Ball joint right here. Swivel here. Bend at the knee, that's 90 degrees. And also some ankle articulation if you wish to use that, which is actually just the transformation joint, let's be real. Now, in terms of weapons that they want you to give to her, they want you to give her nothing. But, with me being the resourceful person that I am, I decided to take one of Titan's Return RC's pistols and give it to her as a bit of defense, so she can still kick butt and look good doing it. I guess that's it for that. Let's move on. And last, but certainly the most, we have Pyromagna, the one who has the most reddish-orange, and the leader of the set. In vehicle mode, she is the
Big Mama.
Is it weird that I kind of get turned on when I call her Mama? Yeah, it's weird. Anyway, moving away from that, the detail here is pretty good. I don't have hotspot, so I can't compare this to him, and I can't compare this to Onslaught either, because I don't have him either. But I do plan to complete my group of Combaticons, but that doesn't matter. Detail on here is pretty darn good, although there are some spots like the headlights that should have been picked out in paint, but I guess I could do that. However, my painting skills have declined. But looking around, you can see her hands, and you can see her head, and you can see her second head. That's Victorion's head. It's kind of lazily hidden, but I guess what are you gonna do? This is a mold that's lifted from Hotspot, but otherwise there is articulation in this mode, like a
Swivel here.
and also a joint here that lets you raise up and down, and also that can come undone. This kind of leave it alone, then it stays in place fine, but otherwise it kind of, I feel like that's kind of it should have had a locking point. But good lord, is this just difficult to do. But otherwise, I do like her vehicle mode. It's pretty good, despite her, you know, being just basically doing extreme planking reality. But I do quite like Pyromagna. That's also a pretty good name. Guess that's it. Let's transform.
You're my heartbeat, my silent drum. That escape can me till I'm numb. I wanna feel the love that James Brown did when he got standing ovations on his gig. I wanna feel free like a bird in the sky when he opened his wings to fly on by to the beat of my silent drum. That escape can me till I'm numb.
Alright, I did forget to flip out her heels, but, whatever. In robot mode, she is, a Voyager class size, and also the tallest of the group. And she's actually also a really good figure. She's pretty fun. However, what hampers the fun is this assembly back here. It really weighs her down and limits your posing options for her. And yes, I said posing, but we're not going to get there yet. Looking at the detail on her, it's pretty good. Just as good as the fire truck detailing. And the chest plate, it definitely kind of reminds me of Motor Mistress by, I forgot his name on DeviantArt. Don't look that up if you're not mature enough to look that up. The mechanical detail all over the place looks pretty good, especially right there and there. And the face is also pretty attractive. She definitely does look like waifu material. And Autobot symbol right on her robo memories. Yeah, I went this whole review without saying what I was originally going to say all the way through. And some tubing right there, and remolded forearms on the inside, with some pretty good looking hands. And yeah, I do like how her feet look, and I kind of wish that the wheels were on the outside, but what can you do? Whatever. I guess there could have been a swivel here, but there doesn't exist a swivel there. Oh, speaking of which, for posability, ball joint at the head, hinge joint right there, which is pretty tight, good lord. Rotation right there, inward and outward movement right there as well. Bend right there, swivel here, bend at the elbow proper, no waist swivel as previously mentioned. Rotation with the legs that can go back that far and forward that far, swivel here. Double bend at the knee due to transformation, and I guess you could do something with that and maybe something with that as well. And you can also screw around with that if you wish. And that's it. As for her assigned weapon, we get this thing, which kind of looks like an axe, but a really weird axe. But it does kind of look like a cool weapon. Yeah, it looks pretty good. And I could definitely see her slashing the ever-loving slag out of some of those Decepticons. So I guess that's it for her. Now, before we get into the main event, I think we have room for one last thing before we get into the combination. Yeah, badass group shot.
Have you ever really wanted to be a total rebel, flipping tables on the enemy? Did you ever try to further improve how fast you punch people through the roof? Oh, was there ever any certain time when you thought brute force and style combined? Well, I guess now's time to shine, 'cause finally she's here. Here comes
Victorion. Wow, I'm just not gonna have any money after this video, am I? Combine mode looks pretty damn good. I just love the look of it. She looks great in combine mode. I would even argue that in spite of the downsides of this set, I would say that this is pretty much the best standard combiner in all of Combiner Wars. However, one problem that I have is that she's kind of fragile. But isn't that how women are? No, but seriously, like a lot of times when you're rotating this, although I kind of made that look worse than it is, then that snaps out of place. These pieces don't hold in all that well. Sometimes you get that, which, good lord, that looks painful. And these just don't really stay together, and you get a chance of popping the hand off when you want to take out the sword. And that's the problem with mainstream combiner toys.
Poo-poo.
As for articulation, ball joint at the head, rotation at the shoulder, which can go in and out as well on ratchet joints. Swivel here. Double bend at the elbow, which is nice and deep. Swivel here. The legs can go in and out. You can swivel it here. Also kick forward that much, and also back that much before her butt gets in the way. Bend at the knee. Rotation at the ankle. And you can also make it tilt left and right. Now, as for all these, what you can do with these is take them and make an awesome looking sword out of it. Now that is what you call baller. As for comparisons, Revoltech Judy Hopps, my current Optimus Prime collection, 2 new figures that I got in the time of my birthday, which was pretty long in order to get these figures to my house. The biggest Transformers toy that I have currently, Titans Return 6-shot, and Transformers movie masterpiece Bumblebee. Overall, this set's actually pretty good. I quite like it. While the set is not perfect, I have to say nothing is perfect. The set might have a bunch of issues, but I do feel like that this is a pretty good set. It might not be perfect, but I still do quite like it. And the concept is really good. I do feel like they should at least try again and make another one of these. And I feel that third-party companies should also try their hands at making a new version of this. And I really do not care what they think. However, I don't think that's possible because everybody likes to pretend that this is the worst thing ever, and that really pisses me off. Though, I do feel like it is possible that we could get a high-end, third-party Victorion set, and that would be really awesome, and I would definitely invest in that. As for the future of Victorion, I believe that she should be a character that remains in the Transformers family, regardless of what others say. I do think that it was a solid effort to try and make a female combiner, and to make some new characters, but of course we have gotten a Skyburst before who was male, but I do believe that is a good way to reuse the name. I still do love this set, and I hope that other companies will learn from this and make their own version of this. If I could, I would start a company and make my own third-party version of this set, and I would try and make it as best as I could. With that said, that's it for me. I do love this set. It has problems, but I do think that the hate that this set has gotten is unwarranted. It's a good set, it just has problems, and the color scheme does not bother me. Now, that's it. Thanks for watching, and gotta zoom.